The Nerevarine outpaces the world really fast. But there's a mod, the Hardcore Mode mod, and what this mod does is balance a bunch of the mechanics, change several item effects, and even hands out new spells to many NPCs, sometimes altering their behavior to make combat a bit more tactical. A big part of the mod is that it removes a ton of exploits and a lot of the cheese. There's a lot of changes. I streamed a different playthrough with this mod, uploaded the VODs to my VOD channel, and the creator of the mod watched those VODs and noticed a few things that needed fixing. Look at me, I'm part of the QA team. But this was after I already started working on this video, so if you try this mod yourself, you'll probably notice some differences. The first big change you'll notice is the races are redesigned. Most notably, they all come with the 5-point fortify attack effect just to give builds a bit more accuracy in the early game. Also notice the skill bonuses. Every race has their own plus 15 and plus 10 bonus, rather than just some of them having that. I want to play this run as the fan Canon Nerevarine, so we're an Argonian. Along with the normal racial specials, this mod gives Argonians a 5% resist to normal weapons buff, because scales, 10 extra points to hand, because claws, and a better version of water breathing that also comes with a swift swim effect, because salamander? I've been enjoying playing Morrowind with major and minor skills only, and that's what we'll be doing for this run, except light armor. I'm not taking light armor, but we might still end up getting a light armor level or two because of a single item. You probably know what I'm talking about. I imagine the Nerevarine would use Sunder and Keening as soon as he gets them. Why the hell wouldn't he? That's why I'm taking heavy armor, blunt weapon, and short blade as minor skills. Wraithguard, besides being necessary if you want to wield Sunder and Keening without dying, is just an all-around good piece of heavy armor. But we'll need a weapon in the meantime before we get Sunder and Keening, so we'll take Spear as a major skill, starting at level 40. Enchant is there because enchanted items are too useful not to use. Illusion because maybe Charm. Yeah, there's changes to Speechcraft, and we'll get to that. Acrobatics and Athletics because I like to jump and I like to run. And finally, Alteration. Initially, I thought having a 100-point open spell would be useful. Silly me didn't realize this mod places some restrictions on spellmaking. Alteration won't be disappointing though. The birth signs are rebalanced as well. You really can't go wrong with any of them. They're all strong in their own unique way. It's fair to say, even if you pick a suboptimal sign, you probably won't regret it. I went with a warrior though, pretty boring choice, but it's pretty good. 10 extra points to strength and endurance, plus 10 more points to attack. Quite the upgrade. There's a second mod that comes along with this one, and it's not perfect and it doesn't really mesh too well, but it's the closest we could get to the original, so let me explain some things. The Hardcore mod wasn't made for OpenMW. It was ported to OpenMW from the vanilla engine with the Morrowind code patch being used. Because of this, the merchant changes didn't really work too well. They couldn't be fitted into OpenMW for some weird modding reasons, I don't know. So there's a supplemental mod, No Pushover Merchants, and this is supposed to make it harder to abuse the merchants. So because we're using this mod, when we go to Auriel's shop, even though we raised his disposition by returning Fargoth's ring, you'll see that he's reluctant to buy anything from us for more than a few septims. My simple understanding of the No Pushover Merchants mod is that all NPCs have had their mercantile levels changed to match their personality. So Auriel here has something around level 85 mercantile. Our mercantile is 5. So yeah. Since we won't be using Speechcraft or Mercantile during this run, we're gonna have to get a bit more creative with how we get our hands on gold. Why not sell your loot to Creeper or the Mudcrab Merchant? Regrettably, their shops have been closed down. But why does gold matter all that much anyway? It's not like I have any plans to make custom enchanted items. What's so expensive that I need a reliable way of making gold? Repairs are cheap enough, and travel is... yeah, taxi services are a bit less competitive in Vardenfell these days. Silt Strider captains realize they're the only game in town. Either pay the fee or get walking. Looting everything from the crates around Balmora is even more important this time around because we need every piece of gold we can get. At first, I thought the No Pushover Merchants mod was a bit too heavy-handed. If you don't take Speechcraft or Mercantile as majors, or if you have low personality, getting decent deals is like trying to fight a cliff racer with a level 5 in Shortblade using a dagger. But then I realized my mistake. If you didn't take Shortblade, you shouldn't be using a Shortblade. You'd take a different approach. Instead of making a ton of 1 septum sales, what if we figured out a way to increase the dispositions of certain merchants without relying on Speechcraft? Ranking up in a guild will raise your overall disposition with all members of the guild, and doing quests for a specific member of a guild will raise their disposition further. Enchanters buy just about everything except alchemy supplies, so the Mages Guild is our best option. They've also got alchemy vendors who will buy our alchemy supplies. We're going to want to get those intervention amulets from Edwina Elbert anyway, so ranking up with the guild should be a cinch. I thought going to Saran and buying the broken glass dagger for cheap would be smart because I could repair it and sell it for profit. But I couldn't afford the repair costs, so instead we'll just buy a silver spear and return to Satanin. There's a few items around here that I forgot to get. The run would actually be impossible without them. All is right in the world. Less important is the Mentor's Ring, a little thing that fortifies intelligence and willpower by 10 points each. Not as good as the hat, but hey, it's easy to get. We just gotta kill this ghost that's stuck in this door. Oh, good, he's out. As you can see, enemies are a bit tankier than normal. I think this is a boss ghost, so it makes sense that it would have a bit more health. Also, the spear is almost broken, so the damage is reduced. Those Saran vendors sell broken merchandise. Shameful. But don't think that's all this mod does. It doesn't just increase enemy health. Oh no. Early enemies may behave the same as their unmodded counterparts, but that won't be true for long. Ah, great. I wanted to show this off. The Dark Brotherhood assassins are a bit different. They no longer wear endgame armor that you could sell for thousands of gold. It looks a bit out of place, if I'm honest, but it does the job. Alright, so the trap on the urn keeps killing me. We'll come back to this after we find some way to heal ourselves. Or maybe we won't. Maybe I'll forget. Not only do we want to help out Edwina Elber, but we also want to do a few duties for Ajira. We can get her disposition maxed out by doing her first series of quests, and then use her to dump any alchemical ingredients we find. One of her quests will have us bringing her gold cannet, among other things. You can find it out in the world, but it's also sold by Paragon in Fort Moonmoth, the fort just outside Arkingtand. We'll swing by his shop, and then head into the Dwemer Ruin to grab the puzzle box. I already talked to Caius about it, so don't worry. He knows what I'm up to. Ooh, maybe taking illusion wasn't a terrible idea after all. Invisibility might come in handy.
This is pointless. Give in.
Oh. Huh. I expected more. Projectiles and spells do travel faster with this mod, so the fight might have been a bit tougher if I hadn't snuck up on him. Sneaked up? He never got a chance to farcast. And here's the Hell Cube, Pain and Pleasure, Indivisible. Ajira's duties are simple. Bring her 4 kinds of mushrooms, which I had already picked while roaming outside of Satanin. Play a prank on Galbadir by sneaking a fake soul gem into her desk. The quest makes Galbadir leave her post in front of the guild, so we can easily steal all her shit while she's away. And plant the gem, I guess. When she tries to use it to enchant something, it'll backfire, turn her hair all frizzy, cover her face in soot, and throw her duck bill backwards. Rabbit season. Now Ajira wants some flowers, 2 of which she actually sells. She's not the brightest crayon in the pickle jar. And then we need to get her a ceramic bowl. Being a cat, she probably wants to sleep in it. I don't think she'll fit, so she can't sit. These few quests brought her disposition up to 83, so we can now actually make some sales without feeling like we're getting ripped off. Making friends with Ajira is more important than you may think though. First, she's a sweetheart and deserves all the love, but also this mod reduces the weights of most alchemical ingredients, quite significantly too. So ingredients end up having a high gold to weight ratio, if we can find a vendor who's willing to buy them. That vendor? Little old Ajira. The last duty we'll be doing for Ajira is finding her missing reports. Galbadir, taking revenge on Ajira for stealing all of her soul gems, that dastardly kitty, stole the reports Ajira had been writing about the mushrooms and flowers we brought her. But they're easy to find, they're just scattered about the guild. Those duties earn us enough reputation with the guilds to earn the rank of Evoker, which should raise our disposition with most members of the guild, including Galbadir. So if we sell some stuff to her... Damn it! Oh yeah, this mod also shrinks female Bosmer. I don't know if it actually affects gameplay, but it's why Galbadir is so small. With an O. She must have a high mercantile level, but she's not the only enchanter in the guild, and we've still got more duties to do, so perhaps an even higher rank will help us out. But to become a conjurer, we'll need to get level 40 in one of the Mage's Guild's skills. A cheap alteration training spell is all we need. Level 40 shouldn't take too long. Why not pay for training? Well, training is a bit overpowered, everyone knows this, as did the mod creator. Not only is gold harder to come by, but the cost of training is something like 10 times more expensive. I can't afford it. Well, I think it seems time we do a sponsor segment. Where is that narratively spurious clone? Greetings, my past self, or present self for yourself. I have come from the future to warn you that you've been going through too many clones. Instead, I've documented all of the sponsorships you're going to get in my cybernetic brain. I'm a cyborg, and I came back in time to tell you all about them. What, so they don't have tailors in the future? Well, not since the great Swifty uprising of 2059. Oh, yeah, right, yeah. Let me tell you about the first sponsorship I have lined up for you. Let me just see, is it in my pockets here? Is it in? Oh, wait. War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and it's available to play for free on PC and console. There's over 2,500 planes, tanks, helicopters, and ships to play with from 10 different nations spanning the last century, from a 1920s biplane to an M1 Abrams. War Thunder isn't just incredibly detailed with regard to its realistic graphics and authentic sound effects, but gameplay is more than just point and shoot. Every vehicle is intricately modeled: engines, fuel tanks, weapons, crew, and where you hit will have different effects on the target. The X-ray view is helpful for knowing exactly how you destroyed your enemy, or how they destroyed you. With over 70 million players, you may think the matchmaking would toss you, a new player with starter vehicles, against players who've researched several tiers of high-end vehicles. But what I like is that this doesn't happen. If the best plane you have is a P-26P shooter, they're not going to pit you against people with F-16s. For a limited time, by using the link in the description, new and returning players that haven't played for at least 6 months can get a massive bonus pack including 100,000 Silver Lions, 7 days of premium, and the exclusive vehicle decorator, Eagle of Valor. So is one of us going to fade into nothing, or are you just going to go back to the future? Well, neither of us are clones, and we've already established that clones fade into nothingness when they realize they're clones for some reason. Oh. And unfortunately, my time machine only travels back in time. We can't travel forward in time. Well, we could travel forward in time, but we travel forward in time at the same speed. So I just have to wait. I'll just hang out here. I'll go into standby mode and tell you when the next sponsorship comes up. Rather than sitting around in Balmora casting a single spell over and over again, let's do more Mages Guild duties while casting a single spell over and over again. We'll bring Edwina a copy of the Chronicles of Nichuleft, get her the potion from Skinking Tree's Shade, cringing all the while because it costs like 100 septims to travel with the guild guides, and steal the Chimar Vermidium from Cyril in Vivec. We'll steal Breathing Water too. It's a skill book, so it should sell for a bit, and it trains Alteration. The Chimar Vermidium trains Heavy Armor, so that's worth reading too. Now we gotta go to Helene's hut, where we'll get to show off how this mod handles scamps. Their speed stats been adjusted a bit. That's a common theme. A lot of enemies are way faster. It's kinda silly because the animations aren't made with that in mind, so they're stronger and they're harder to kill, but they look really goofy. I like it. Return the Chimar Vermidium? No problem. By handing the book over to Cyril directly, rather than sneaking it back into her chest, you get a disposition boost with her. She's not a true merchant, so it's not too helpful, but she does sell some spells. So I guess technically she is a merchant, but you know what I mean. You can't barter with her. Maybe we'll swing by later and buy a spell from her. Returning to Edwina, we get the 2 intervention amulets, effectively granting infinite instant teleports to nearby temples. Super useful. One final cast of our training spell brings us to 40 alteration, and because we've done enough duties, Ranus Atheris gives us the privilege of paying the guild 200 septims so we may reach the rank of Conjurer.
How do you do?
God damn it, Galbadir. What do I gotta do for you to give me a good deal? Oh, I steal 100,000 septims worth of soul gems one time, and all you've done is lord it over me. Get over it. Looks like I'm taking my business elsewhere. Foam's Mirror in the Caldera Mages Guild is also an enchanter, but you must be a conjurer to access the services. How convenient that we are now a conjurer. Perhaps he'll be more accommodating. Now that's more like it. Great. We've got a couple decent merchants to sell to. Next, we want to buy an Amulet of Recall from Vergermain. For marking, we can just buy potions from Nalcaria and Balmora. She sells recall potions too, but I feel like we recall more than we mark, so having a limitless supply of instant casts is more convenient. Also, the Amulet of Mark is behind a bunch of enemies. The Amulet of Recall is just in a shop. And we'll buy a new spear from Galbadir. This one has a weak shock enchantment on it. 2 points of damage for 1 second. Not amazing, but not terrible. Andrano Ancestral Tomb time. We gotta get a skull. Normally, archer skeletons give me a lot of trouble, and this mod makes their arrows even harder to dodge. So what's this tomb gonna look like now? Still rough, but nothing a little bit of kiting can't solve. Oh man, they put a greater Bonewalker in here with the lesser Bonewalker. This mod does increase the amount of carrying capacity you get from strength to 6 times rather than 5 times, but I still have no interest in getting my strength damaged by this guy. 2 skulls. Yeah, the mod also changes some overworld items, but sometimes it gets a little quirky. This is one of the bugs the creator noticed in my VOD. I believe it's fixed now. This dagger could be useful. Damage, endurance, and strength. And the unarmored skill book, of course, we'll read it and sell it later. Sharon's got a brand new skull, and there's nothing suspicious about that at all. She's not a necromancer. How could she be? Skulls don't even have necks to romance. Caius wants more info about the Nerevarine cult, the Sixth House prophecy, all that jazz, so he sends us to the city of Vivec. Huli is a monster and obliterates the dark elves harassing him, and after we bring him to Jobash's bookshop, we raid the place and steal all the valuable skill books just lying around. How could someone just leave these things out in the open? Are they stupid? Maramilo so kindly gives us information about the dissident priests, and as thanks, we steal a bunch of copies of the Chronicles of the True Left from this bookshelf right here. Why do they need so many? What is this, a library? Finally, Adherenir. Taunting enemies into attacking us, forcing us into self-defense mode, doesn't really work with this mod. At least, it's a lot harder to pull off. So we have to do the quest the normal way. Talk to Adherenir, tell the tax agent she ran away, then return to the Khajiit to get the information. Since we're down here, there's a couple enemies I want to check on. They probably outlevel me significantly, but in Morrowind, the level is just a suggestion. It's a strong suggestion. She's fast and heavily armored, but the Dagger of Judgment might do some good work. See, damage attribute effects are permanent unless you restore the attribute via potion, spell, or praying at a shrine. With 0 strength, NPCs can't move. The damage strength effect is effective. Well, I guess they can kinda move. They can't walk, but they can still attack. However, I've got a spear with superior range. She's actually guarding a shrine to Mehrunes Dagon, that's a loincloth, and there are some even stronger enemies here. I recall their loot being pretty good, unique even, so I don't expect the mod to have changed it all too much. One of the NPCs has 2 sanguine items, and one of them might be Fortified Shortblade, but I could be wrong. Dwarven Shortsword on this one, not terrible, certainly worth taking. Even if I don't use it, I could sell it. And I'd definitely like to get my hands on that guy's longsword. It's a Daedric longsword, I'm pretty sure, and I would like to sell it. He's really strong, lots of health, high level gear, a shock shield that damages me when I damage him. I don't know if this is feasible, but the other guy, if I walk ever so slowly, I get his attention without alerting the guy with the Daedric weapon. He has 2 sanguine items, one that fortifies marksman, and the other longblade. Damn, could have sworn it was shortblade. Ah well, I'll take him anyway, I can sell him. And we got another level out of this. Yeah, not worth killing him. Let's get back on track. Just to get back off track, actually. Caius wants us to go to Outrun and speak with the Ashlander turned traitor, Hassauer-Zain Subani. But I'd rather sell all the books I stole in Vivec, and then head to the Dunmer stronghold Barandus, south of Nissus. Why? I'm sick of this silver spear, and I want something with a bit more pizzazz, a bit more spice, a bit more less shitty. Barandus is oddly barren. These strongholds usually have some NPC presence, be it non-aggressive NPCs squatting in the ruins or bandits and marauders. There's also a couple strongholds filled with sentient tumors, but Barandus is quiet. Dremora. This mod makes significant changes to Dremora. First of all, they're beefier. They're meant to be high-end enemies. You know, soldiers who've torn free from Oblivion and entered Nirn to enact the will of their prince. Elite warriors from planes unspeakable, worlds unthinkable, incomprehensible, these Dremora. Putting them down with a few spear pokes would be embarrassing. They also use bound equipment now. This not only means their attacks are stronger, but it also means they're no longer guaranteed to drop weapons. And frankly, it's kinda weird that you could find them with Dwemer weapons in the first place. To make killing them more rewarding, they now drop expensive alchemy ingredients and a bit more gold. Also, they do have a very slight chance of dropping their weapons. It's just not guaranteed. This one dropped a diamond. As we venture deeper into the bowels of Barandus, skewering scamps along the way, we enter a room with a skeleton pinned to a stalactite, who died wondering if that smell was indeed him. His cause of death is a mystery that must have frustrated the last adventurer who traveled these unlit tunnels. For in their anger, they seem to have driven their own Daedric spear into the spaces between the skeleton's very bones, so incensed in his ignorance. But that anger becomes my upgrade. Oh my god, look at these goofy little shits. The animations really weren't set with that speed in mind. Whoa, that's new. They have a blind spell now. Alright, Daedra are no joke in this mod. I guess they shouldn't be. The Winged Twilights were guarding this corpse. Perhaps this was the angry man who left his spear behind. On his feet are the boots of the Apostle. They grant 30 to 40 points of levitate for 30 seconds, but we're an Argonian so we can't use them. If we need gold, maybe we could sell them to the Mournhold Museum. Things are shaping up well. we meet with Hassauer Zain Subani, give him a book of poetry in exchange for information, return to Caius to tell him what we've learned, fight off the Dark Brotherhood assassin while Caius watches like the sick freak he is, and that's why we love him, and then prepare for our trip to the Ashlands. But I had yet another brilliant idea. I've got Alteration as a major skill. Jump is an alteration spell, as is Slowfall. How far could a 100-point jump spell take me? Cyril Ennui sells both Tinner's Hoptoad and Slowfall, both underwhelming on their own. But if we make a 100-point jump spell for 1 second, and a 1-point Slowfall spell for about 5 seconds, we may be able to launch ourselves across mountains. I'll also make a new shield spell. You gotta take advantage of the school you're specializing in, right? Alright, let's test this baby out. Ah man, I love Morrowind. Shit, I made a touch. I made Slowfall on touch. Remade the spells, let's try that again. Tarheel could learn a thing or two from me, if he wasn't so arrogant. And dead. High-speed levitation is probably the faster way of traveling, but jumping is just so much more fun. Do you guys remember that game, Tribes Ascend? Zooming around on those maps was such a blast, but it was a free-to-play PvP shooter from 2012 made by Hi-Rez, so... Shazbot. Anyway, we're off to the Ursulaco Barrow Caverns to get the Bonebiter Bow of Sul Sanapool from the Wraith of Sul Sanapool because Sulmatul, Ashcan of the Ursulaco Ashlanders, wants us to prove ourselves to the Ursulaco tribe before he'll discuss the Nerevarine prophecies with an Outlander. Even Inlanders are Outlanders to the Ashlanders, so we're like double Outlanders. And it kind of sucks because I feel like I have to one-up myself every single video with that, and I don't know how much better, I don't know where I can go from here. These skellies are no match for my Daedric Spear of imminent thrusting. Now I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I get the Devil Spear from Revere and just use the Bound Spear that comes with it? And it's an excellent question. The answer is obvious. I'll leave that as an exercise for the viewer. Sumatul's son's grandfather's ghost is a pushover. The ceremonial offering I must hand over to Zabamund, the Ashkan's Gulakan, is a burden felt deep within my bosom. And lo, I must consent to this tribute, lest I earn no audience with Sumatul. $200. Yeah, initiation rite, get the bow, already got the bow, talk to Nabani Mesa, learn some stuff, return to Caius to get our next marching orders. Who do we gotta kill next? Dagoth Gares in the caverns of Illinibi, outside Narmok. Normally a rather trivial dungeon, but what does this mod have in store for us? Whoa. Okay, so dreamers can summon scamps. A bone walker would feel more thematic, closest thing to a corpus stalker, but I guess I should be happy it's only scamps. That's where you'll find Creeper now that his shop is closed. Only scamps. I don't know how much magicka he has, or if he can resummon his squad, so our best bet is to ignore the scamps and focus on taking out the Dreamer. Once he dies, the scamps go with him. Ash slaves appear to be unchanged, except their spells travel faster, but that's the case for all casters. And they don't really need to be changed, because they're probably the second hardest enemy to fight in this game, the first being archer skeletons. I don't know why Ash slaves are so difficult to kill. They're the enemies I die to the most. They're not as cute when there's a half dozen of them.
Ow, son of a bitch.
Finally made it to the Soul's Rattle. Navigating Illinibi is tough when you've got a dozen ankle biters telling you. Excuse me. What the? I can't even begin to. Goddamn, scamp army all up in my. I can't move. Okay, new plan. Lure the enemies out gradually. Oh, there was a skeleton in that chaos. Didn't even notice. 2 skeletons, actually. 3 skeletons. What's happening? And a ghoul. And a slave. What is this conveyor belt of horrors? What is going on? 3.5 skulls and 1 face among these 4 guys. Okay, they're dead. Now we can lure Dagoth Gares out and finally fight our first Noodle Snoot. Hopefully without scamps. That Bone Walker is my primary target. Gares might not resummon him. The Bone Lord is less of an issue. So at first I thought this was an example of the new AI behavior. The Noodle Snoots run away and let their summons fight. So I have to chase after him. And he's probably raging right now. Why don't enemies fight my summons? Why do they chase me and my summons can't catch up? But this is actually an oversight. They're not supposed to do that. I had only seen Noodle Snoots behave this way, so I assumed it was some kind of I'm a leader and not a fighter sort of a thing. I think this might be one of the fixes that the creator pushed already. We've contracted Dagoth Ur's divine disease, super gonorrhea, but this one makes you stronger if you wait long enough. We won't though. We're headed straight to Devaith Fear to get this treated. Don't want to forget the Fist of Ranagulf, however. A pair of gauntlets that fortify agility and strength by 20 points each. And the glass boots, to sell, quickly. Shit. The recall. Ooh. To tell Fear. It may seem reckless, but at least my doors didn't fly off. That's still a relevant joke. Alaska Airlines and the doors flying off the plane. That joke's not gonna age well. I don't give a shit. We do Dvaithfir a solid and grab his boots from his basement dwarf, and he gives us a potion that cures the negative effects of Corpus. That's how you know I'm the Messiah. My gonorrhea is invisible. Let's speed through this next part because there's no combat involved. We return to Caius Legion free, and he tells us to check back in on Mare Milo because he's returning to the Imperial City. Mare's been arrested, so we gotta break into Bardau, the floating political prison meteor, and bring her Divine Intervention scrolls, which I didn't forget to bring this time. She tells us to meet at Holomaion, where we can get more information about this whole Nerevarine thing. Oh, wasn't that neat? We haul Givas Borello's books back to Nabani Mesa, who then points us back to Sul-Matul to learn about the third trial of the Nerevarine, but Sul-Matul's a tool, and wants us to fetch random garbage from Coggerin before he tells us anything else. So that's our next stop, fighting through more 6th House cultists. Oh boy, that could be a problem. Nothing says we have to kill these guys. We just need the Dagoth Cup and the Weepings, so... It's not cowardly to run from a fight you're guaranteed to lose. I wonder what the squid faces are like. Jeez. Either the mod removes their on-target spells, or the only on-target spell they have is the Poison Ball. Argonians are immune to poison, so it's opting instead to use an Absorb Health on Touch spell. Whatever the reason, it makes my job easier. Getting to the sewers is simple enough. We could either kill all the Ash Slaves and Atronachs throughout this place, or just dodge and weave between their spells. But here, we've got a pair of Fire Atronachs, and we're in tight tunnels. How will we handle this? I can't really dodge their fireballs since they've got a wide area of effect. Perhaps you forgot that Nerevar is not only a skilled alterationist, but he's also quite familiar with illusions. Like the noble chameleon, he blends into his surroundings, becoming invisible, and bypassing the many enemies that dare bring him harm. Chameleons don't actually change their color to match their surroundings, but Argonian, lizard, chameleon. Octopuses can do that, so if the squid faces cast invisibility, maybe it'd make more sense. Although I don't think squid can change their color nearly as well as octopuses and cuttlefish can. Octopuses can pretty much blend in with anything. Let's just say cephalopod. We call squid faces not because they look like they have squid faces, but because they have tentacles, and octopus face doesn't roll off the tongue as good as squid face. Daedra gauntlets. Gonna sell them. Oh damn it, I haven't been wearing the Fist of Randagulf. I'm such a silly little dumbass. And we're out of here. Sul-Matul doesn't actually want this crap, he just wanted us to get this crap to prove a point. The third trial will have us going to the Cavern of the Incarnate on the eastern side of Vardenfell. I usually don't take anything from these failed incarnates, but we're gonna grab the travel stain pants this time around. Could be useful, a little bit of levitation could come in handy. I hope the stains aren't biological. And before we forget, let's return to the Urshulaku and be named Nerevarine by Sul-Matul. He couldn't have preemptively done that because tradition. On to the Nerevarine and Hortator portion of the main quest. Normally, you can easily raise the Zainab Ashcan's disposition by bribing him, but that's not really an option for us right now. Instead, we need to bring him a pair of exquisite shoes first, then he'll set us on our first task, killing Calvario the vampire. We need to buy a set of exquisite clothes for the sex slave he'll ask us to bring him anyway, so it's not too big of an inconvenience. As usual, Calvario is in the Nerano ancestral tomb behind a greater bone walker, 2 skeletons, and a ghost. Not too difficult. Calvario, on the other hand, so fast that he misses his spell and runs out the door into the other room. He's also got a ton of health, and one cast of Vampiric Touch not only heals him to full, but it kills me. So we need to dodge his creepy fingers until he's out of magicka. At that point, he starts throwing hands and it becomes a battle of attrition. It's always a struggle when fighting someone who's fisting you. Do you keep your fatigue topped up so you never get knocked down, potentially wasting resources? Or do you wait until you get punched at 0 fatigue and drink your potions at that point so you stand up more quickly? There. That took a minute. Escorting Flora to the Zainab camp is pretty simple. It's all over land. It's not like we gotta worry about fish or anything. The hardest part is getting her over this mushroom rib. Zainab Nerevarine. The Arab and Nimsim are up next. Their wise woman wants us to sort out an issue of diplomacy, wants us to mediate a dispute between two factions within the camp. These are productive talks. Arab and Nimsim Nerevarine. I hate the Ahamusa Ashlanders. Escorting Sanamu sucks, but this mod changes Sanamu a bit. She doesn't have water walking by default, which is apparently one of the oversights the creator mentioned, and it should be fixed going forward. But during this run, she didn't have water walking. But it's not a problem, because we've got alteration as a major skill. So I made a water walking on touch spell to use on Sanamu, and a water walking on self spell to use on myself. It's nice not having to deal with fish and dregs, and it's also nice that she's not running off into the sunset. We do have to take a long route around the hill though, since NPCs have trouble walking up certain slopes. Let's kill these guys, why not? Ahamusa Nerevarine. The Horchtor stuff will require way more combat than it normally does. Whiterun and Halu is the same as you'd expect, but Telvanni is going to be a bit more fiddly. We can't really bribe the counselors, I don't have speechcraft as a major or minor, but even if I weren't opposed to using miscellaneous skills, the failure rate would be so high that I doubt I'd be able to get their disposition above 20. So how do we secure their votes? Well, the Telvanni are an interesting bunch. See, there are 5 counselors, but you don't need 5 votes. You just need the votes of 100% of the counselors. Counselors stop being counselors when they're dead. Nelith is first. Now, when we attack him, all the nearby Telvanni are going to spring into action, but if we're quick enough, we might be able to use the Telvanni architecture to our advantage. And there he goes. Timing the attacks should keep him staggered and stun-locked long enough that he can't cast any spells, but we got potions just in case. And because the... Because the Telvanni are a bunch of psychopaths, we don't get bounty for killing all these guys. If they wanted to live, they shouldn't have been so easily murderable. Next, Thorana. She's a bit unhinged, so she kinda bugged out a bit. I had to use a bit of cheese to kill her, unfortunately. Which, now that I think about it, is kinda apropos. Madness, Shagorath, cheese, lol, so random. Every time I ran out of the room to avoid her spellcasts, her aggression would reset, and attacking her would count as another act of assault. It was weird. I'm gonna assume it's thematic because she's got a few screws loose. Maybe it's got to do with that one Telvanni quest where she attacks you for wearing her skirt. Bethesda probably didn't want a quest making her permanently aggressive. Perhaps she's coded to reset to passive whenever you re-enter her cell. She healed a lot, so that was annoying. Killing Thorana added to my bounty too for some reason. She's an odd one, that Thorana. I can't afford to pay the bounty, so we gotta go to jail. I had bought a bunch of Telvanni bug musk before all this from Cien Sintiev, thinking it would help raise the counselor's dispositions, but it didn't help at all, and it was expensive. 40 days in lockup. It could be worse. Dratha has a bunch of elven helpers around her mushroom as well, and they're a bigger problem than Dratha herself, especially this Bosmer with the elemental shields. I did start using Malipu Ataman's belt though. It was a reward from Sulmatul when he named us Nerevarine. It fortifies our agility by 10 and heals us for 2 points per second, both for 60 seconds. Not a huge buff, but it comes in handy when you're running away from wizards. This shock mirror robe. Resist shock 20% and reflect 10%. Both constant effects. Yeah, some items were changed to constant effects with this mod. It's a good thing it's the same style as the robe I'm currently wearing because if it weren't, I don't think I'd be able to put it on. It wouldn't feel right. Final target, Gothrun. He's usually the only one we have to kill. We'll start with his little helpers downstairs. We don't need them interfering.
It will end your pain.
Oh, I just assumed Gothrun didn't give a shit. Seems he wanted to help the other two, but he Larry Moe and curlied himself in the door with those 2 Dremora. I guess no amount of mods will fix some of the goofiest behavior. Well, it's the Telvanni's fault for making such cramped hallways. We already had Aryan support, which means we've earned the support of all the Telvanni Council, making us their Horchdor. Whiterun is next. Save Ethan's son, talk to the other counselors, challenge Bolvin Venom to a duel in Vivek's arena. We'll kill him while we do the Hlalu Hortator stuff. I had sold the loot I liberated from the Telvanni counselors, so I was able to pay Crassius Curio his 1k bribe, and Ingling his 2k bribe. Drembara was hiding, but Ondusi's unhinging is quite the simple cantrip. By telling Orvis Dren that we want to defeat Dagoth he immediately becomes aggressive, preventing the other NPCs in the building from aiding him. It's probably just a quirk of how NPC AI is programmed, but part of the fun of a role-playing game, for me at least, is creating excuses for game mechanics so they mesh with the lore. Because Orvis Dren is the aggressor, his allies assume Dren has this fight handled. To help Dren would be a tacit admission that they believe he can't handle a fight that he himself initiated. Dunmer culture, at least on Vardenfell, is very fafo. Dren fad. So he foed. With him dead, the 2 Hlalu counselors in his pockets aren't interested in finding out as well, so we get their votes. Before locking in our Hlalu Hortatorniness, we'll swing by the arena, give Bolvin Venom a poke, and return to Crassius, becoming Hlalu Hortator. He probably wants us to give him a poke as well, or at least a peck on the cheek, on his face. Last thing to do is to check in on Aethan Serethi and officially become Redoran Hortator. Having fulfilled the first 5 parts of the Nerevarine prophecy, Vivek sees the writing on the wall and summons us to meet with him so that we may plan an assault on Red Mountain, bringing the fight to Dagoth himself. He gives us Wraithguard, a gauntlet that will allow us to wield Sundering Keening without suffering mortal wounds. It also comes with a powerful enchantment, 10% resistance to all magic and elemental damage, 10 points of shield, and 20% reflect. That reflect, I suspect, will come in clutch soon enough. We got some ash vampires to deal with. First citadel, Odrasol, lair of Dagoth Odros. You may think vampire citadels were named after the vampire within, and you'd be right, that's exactly the reason. Golden Saints ain't easy. They heal a lot. I think most Daedra have an inherent heal over time effect, but they also have a restoration spell that doesn't seem to cost that much magicka because they keep casting it. They drop a decent bit of loot though, so that's nice. You know, I could just unhinge this door on Dusili and take Keening without fighting Dagoth Odros at all. Dagoth tasked Odros with protecting this powerful artifact, but he couldn't so much as put it behind a stronger lock. I may not agree with Dagoth on most things. In fact, we likely have nothing in common. I may be grateful that his underlings are incompetent, but negligence, dereliction of duty, inexcusable. Okay, so that's goofy as all get out. Ugh. It's goofy, but it's kind of spooky. He's like a fly looking for a way out. Veminal is next, after stocking up on some more potions, of course. What's behind this door? Yeah, I'll just leave them to it. Oh my god. My heart just skipped a beat. How long was that behind me? Oh, whoa. Oh. Somehow jump scares are worse when it's not a horror game. Vemin's a speedy little guy, but his touches are easy enough to dodge. And with an unarmored skill at nearly 50 with several points of shield, physical attacks aren't an immediate death sentence. Vemin drops Sunder, which grants 30 points of attack and 20 points of strength, endurance, and luck at the minor cost of draining 1 point of fatigue per second. With Sunder equipped, we have a total of 45 points of attack. So even if all of our skills and attributes were 1, even if we had 0 fatigue, we'd still have a 45% chance to hit, before factoring in the enemy's dodge chance. The attack modifier is unaffected by the fatigue modifier. Pretty good.
Come, Nerevar, friend or traitor, come. Come and look upon the heart and the Kula. And bring Wraithguard. I have need of it.
Sunder's such an amazing weapon. Want to know something absurd? It was during this run, during this fight, that I realized you do more damage to an enemy when they're knocked over. Don't know why I never noticed. When I checked UESP, sure enough it said exactly that. When an enemy is knocked onto the ground, they take more damage and are easier to hit. Another reason why heavy weapons are the superior weapon type. I hate to say it, but the fight against Daddy Dagoth wasn't all that difficult. He had more health, but that's about it. It would have been pretty interesting if he summoned ash monsters. Maybe a couple slaves, a noodle snoot, squid face, I don't know. I do wish the final dungeon wasn't another Dwemer facility. Imagine if the Heart of Lorkhan were massive, and the whole goal was to get through this dungeon. You don't know what the dungeon is, but you gotta get to the heart. And it turns out the further you go into this dungeon, the more and more flesh-like it becomes, because you're actually fighting through the corpus-grown innards of a Kulakan, trying to get to the chest cavity. And when you get to the chest cavity, the heart is the size of a room. It's Lorkhan's heart. I assume Lorkhan, whose body is the moon's, was pretty big. I don't know why his heart is the size of a guy. I mean, it's a pretty big heart compared to a regular heart, but it's pretty small compared to a friggin' moon. Bethesda never really made amazing boss fights. Although I guess my idea doesn't really fit the style of Morrowind too much. A big theme in this game is contradicting duality. Dagoth is a horrific monster, hell-bent on blessing the world with his divine disease. Everything you learn about him, everything you hear about him, is Lovecraftian and eldritch and nightmarish. But when you meet him, he's remarkably polite and cordial. Meeting him, talking with him, is important.
What a fool you are. I'm a god. How can you kill a god? What a grand and intoxicating innocence. How could you be so naive? There is no escape. No recall or intervention can work in this place. Come, lay down your weapons. It is not too late for my mercy. What are you doing? Fool, stop! This is the end. The bitter, bitter end.
And that's all she wrote. Shall we come full circle? We began with a fight on a bridge. We shall end with a fight on a bridge. This was fun. Not obnoxiously difficult, but it did keep me on my toes. Certainly better than just turning up the difficulty. There's also way more to this mod than I showed off in this video. There's apparently some mega bosses hidden in the world that I never came across. It could be fun to do everything except the main quest one day. Maybe I'll stream it. Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. A reminder that for a limited time by using the link in the description, new and returning players that haven't played for at least 6 months can get a massive bonus pack including 100,000 Silver Lions, 7 days of premium, and the exclusive vehicle decorator, Eagle of Valor.